and raised in Israel, now here in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, with my wife and 7 children, running this Chabad center for the past 11 years, taking care of Jews who live here regularly. Yes, there are such. Those who travel or backpack through the country, and business people that come by, taking care of anything between um, social needs, humanitarian causes, all the way till bar mitzvah, bris that we had here, and even open the cemetery. Anything to do with Jews, whether it's regarding Judaism or not, goes mostly through our doors, being the only presence, only Jewish presence in the 200,000 square kilometers of this kingdom.
Amazing. Awesome. All right. So can you tell us, has there been a history of Jews in Cambodia? How far back does it go?
I don't know if I don't know if it's possible to verify this. They say that there was an investigator that was digging under a house, and 50 meters under the house, he found some wires, and he posted that he has a proof that 1,000 years ago they already had telephones. And then his colleague digged under the house in the neighboring village and found nothing. And then he said that 1,000 years ago they already had cell phones. There's no wires. I don't know. Jews have been all over the place throughout history. However, in this particular region or country, the earliest I know of is a 1991 Pesach gathering. I'm sure there was a Jewish presence here during the war, more in like 75 through 79 when America came here. And I'm also convinced that throughout history, there has been times where Jews were here. Was there a permanent community? Not that I know of. We opened a cemetery here about 6 years ago, and as far as I know, it's the very first time there's a Jewish cemetery, which means a permanent presence of Jews was likely not here ever before.
Wow. So did you find, and even just talking about that cemetery, of course there was a need that made you want to open up a cemetery.
People do die over here too.
But I guess, so there's an older a community that lives there permanently, and we met. I'll give you some background. Last week and the week before, last week we met Rabbi Levitansky from Sumy, Ukraine, and the week before we learned about the Jewish community in Nigeria. And they were really opposites, where in Sumy, Ukraine, people have been living there for generations and generations. Nigeria, a lot of it is transient, a lot of Israelis and that go there for business and it's contractors. So what I'm assuming, if you have a cemetery, there's a presence that is permanent. There's people that live there and of course die there, rather than it just being backpackers. I guess my bigger question is, what type of Jews live in Cambodia?
Well, I would say we're similar to Nigeria than to Sumy. What type of Jews? All type of Jews. What do people do here? They do here what they do in California. We have, of course, 4 Jewish lawyers in town. We have wealthy people and less wealthy people who invest their money here, people who run the investment of the others. Anything between NGO workers who are coming to make sure this place becomes a better place, to the people that are the cause of the others to come. Part of our community is people who are somewhat low budget, retired but low budget, and they find peace in this place. Here you can become a king with $1,500 a month. So yes, we do have. It's not nothing I'm describing is enlarged. We're talking about, I say, in the good times pre-corona, maybe 120 people, Jews, permanently living in Phnom Penh, in my city. So any
Jews
group I describe
live in Phnom.
Again?
Oh, you were saying that 120 Jews live full time in your city, in Phnom.
In Phnom Penh, that's right.
Wow.
And so when I speak about specific or a certain stream of people, that doesn't mean hundreds. That maybe 20 people, there's more, but 20 Jews who are here as retired, and they're kind of just spending their time walking around, waking up in the morning, making coffee, going around, coming back home, stopping by Chabad for a class, for services or whatever that is. So for that part of the community, yes, a cemetery is needed because in many cases they see no reason or don't have the ability to get themselves back to the U.S. or to Israel.
Wow.
The cause of the cemetery actually started when I got a phone call from a Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Israel that a friend, of course, everything is with connection, died here and they needed help, and I rushed myself to the hospital where the morgue was, and basically the family wanted me to help them release the body without paying the hospital bill because they wanted the cremation. And I negotiated with the family and I tried to explain to them how important burial is, and they gently told me that this is not what they asked me help for. They want just help in releasing the body from the hospital without paying the $3,000 bill. And it was very painful for me. It was the first time I confronted cremation. Like I felt I have a hand didn't have to say, but I was involved. It was very upsetting to me. On my mind, I thought to myself, this man is doing better in the freezer of the hospital than in your hands. I'm not going to help you get them out so you can cremate him. I tried to offer them to pay the bill and pay the burial, and it end up didn't not working out. They insisted they want the body for cremation, and I gently pulled off the case. And from there, went to meet a fellow Jew, one of the four lawyers I mentioned before, and he saw right away that I was disturbed, and my face was I couldn't hide my. It wasn't a good feeling. Like they think that I was in touch with the family. Maybe I should have said this, should have said that. I know that I failed in the mission, and this Jewish man is not going to get the basic right of being very Jewish, of being married, period. And I didn't look good. So he insisted I tell him what's on my heart. And at first I thought to myself, what should I tell him? He's not going to understand me. And then I said, actually, I'll never be able to come to him and ask him, how about Jewish burial, right? This is a great chance to bring it up. And so I said, this is what happened. I got the call from here. I went, I came. This is where it's holding. And he said immediately, he said, Rabbi, I do not mind Jewish burial. If you think it's important, I'm all for it. But I'm not going back to the US. I have nothing in the US, no one in the US. Here, my wife will take care of me. She'll put flowers every year or whatever. Come visit. I said to him on the spot, I said, if you commit for Jewish burial, I'll commit to open a cemetery here.
Wow.
And he's as a lawyer, he opened the printer right away. He took out a pen. He wrote this down with his own pen that he commits to be, if there's a Jewish cemetery here, he requests to be buried in that cemetery. We later on formed this in a better form. But I walked off of that meeting with that paper, and there started my journey to find the land and whatever the process took, and it did take a while. Um, the locals don't bury, so there aren't many lands of cemetery around. And when people were finding out that we're looking into land for a cemetery, then neighbors would get very concerned because they very much believe in all kind of spirits, and having a cemetery next door is really would reduce the price of land all around. It was really hard. We ended up, Baruch Hashem, we ended up getting it. I mentioned it 6 years ago. There is now 4 people buried there,
Wow.
and definitely 2 of them is probably the only way they got buried Jewish. They would have been cremated otherwise.
Wow. I'm going to back you up a little bit, Ben Zion. So what we
I
learned.
know we came too fast to the cemetery part.
No, it's all one big mitzvah. So it's inspiring to hear every part of it. But what we
It
learned
is,
in
but
the
we have
past.
stories about getting married, people who got married through the Chabad and babies and so on. There's more
Yeah, we'd love
exciting
to hear
parts.
those. We'd love to hear those. So I want to hear how you found Cambodia and how you moved there. We learned in the past few Sundays or I guess Monday for you, but in our time zone, it's Sunday evening now. And we learned from out of Nigeria and also our friend in Rabbi Levitansky how they found it. One was in yeshiva in Ukraine, and he would go visit that area. And in Nigeria, what we learned is about Merkaz Shlichut, about going there before and scouting it out. And how did you find Cambodia? Were there other rabbinical students that visited it before, or is it something you just found on your own? Were you approached? If you could explain that.
I don't think any of the 43 families, 43 rabbis in Asia has been to Asia prior to his arrival with the Merkaz Shlichut.
When
Um,
you say 43
uh,
families, you're saying 43 permanent Chabad families that live in the Far East in
in
Asia.
Asia, that's right.
Wow,
That's right.
amazing.
We're very close with each other. We have a WhatsApp group that keeps in touch. We as a family had a baby last night, meaning Chabad in Burma had a baby girl yesterday.
Wow.
Last night again means Saturday night for us. Um, um and none of us has been. I don't think any of us has been here before. This is really challenging. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of yeshiva boys coming as Merkaz Shlichut. Thailand on its own got last, not this Pesach because of the virus, but last Pesach, 70 yeshiva boys to come help run the seders because they're the largest seder in the world is in Kosovo. It's 2,500 people, and it was divided in a way that each hundred had a pair, and so on. I myself got last year um, 6 yeshiva boys because they went to 3 different towns other than my town. So Seder was run in 4 different cities last year with a little more than 600 people participating in all four.
In Cambodia,
However,
600 people
in Cambodia,
celebrating the Seder.
yes, yes, yes.
And just
It
backing up
was
for a second, I heard that Nepal used to be the largest Seder in the world, and it was recently surpassed with Thailand, right? Is that?
yes, yes, because it's different. The Nepal is a backpacker style seder. The Samui is more families who are coming for just for the week of Pesach. Nepal is for more people that are out of Israel for much longer. So in the different spirits, different style.
Wow.
Nepal is a very impulsive and spontaneous seder, and the Samui seder is very well organized and branded, and there's a company that is hired to run the event. Aside for the spiritual part that is being given by Chabad, they got a proper company to brand the thing, and everything is very professionally done for families. It's a different 2 different styles of seder.
Wow. So
What
in
I'm pointing though,
yeah, go
to,
ahead.
to go back to our topic, there are many yeshiva boys who come here regularly and are exposed to what's going on. We, the 43 of us, didn't before, and I think that's part of what it is. It's a little hard to commit to this when you know in advance what it's about. You're more motivated when you don't know. We have been here before, my wife and myself. Back first time was in Pesach 2009, um, and this was our first engagement with this region, with this country, with the culture, with the lifestyle, and it was definitely overwhelming. But at the same time, it was also very engaging because we found that the thirst of the local Jews for a center is something that you will not find in other places. Everyone was interested. Everyone was impressed. Everyone was appreciative. The first time I as a rabbi got a no from someone reaching out saying let's go out for coffee was probably about 3 years after I arrived.
Wow.
Like it's a different ballgame than it is in California. I remember when we left Cambodia on Pesach 2009. The airport is quite small. Maybe there's maybe 7 gates. There were, now it's bigger. There were 7 gates in the international departure. So we were standing boarding to our flight, and someone came running from the other side of the airport, which is not that far, and came over to me and introduced himself and handed me his business card as they do here, like with 2 hands. And he says to me, when you come, he circled his cell phone number. He says, when you come home, if you don't mind, call me. I looked at the business card. I said, Adam, did something go wrong? Like, is there anything urgent? He says, no. I just, they took away my Afikoman and they requested. In return, I said, what do you want me to give you, an iPod? They requested that we open a permanent center in Cambodia. And I said, I looked at my wife. She said, don't look at me. I made up with you. I need a month to decide. I won't make the immediate decision. And so I ended up telling them that I'm going to pass on their request to the headquarters and see and whatever. I'll open it. I got my command, but he wanted to know as I was going on the flight, to follow up on this. And I remember I was holding he had to run back. He had to run back to his boarding flight, and I remember holding every time we passed by in the airport. I remind this to my wife, holding the card in two hands because he gave it to me in two hands. I received it also with two. And he was already away. And he looked at my wife at the card, and he said, "Mashi, look, we'll end up in California." We're then looking at Redwood City. Was another option that we considered. They will end up in Redwood City, California, and you're going to try to reach out to a Jew, and you'll tell he's not Jewish. And then you'll knock on his door when the sign says calling lawyers, and you'll make sure the secretary says he's too busy. Eventually, when he'll be forced to give you a business card, he'll give you the one that doesn't have his cell phone on it. And here, you see that people are coming on their own and are excited and are requesting, and it's definitely very appealing. As you've mentioned, you mentioned the celebrity in the Chabad people eyes. Yeah, it's fun coming to the kinus, to the conference with 4,000 others and getting more attention than others. I won't hide this, but the more fun isn't only the compliments. The more fun is the appreciation of the people who are here for what we're doing, and the people who are visiting. I hear regularly, again, not now because the virus, we don't have any outside traffic, but in regular times, probably every single day. Wow, Chabad is amazing, and I hear this from different people every day, and that's definitely motivating and paying off for the definitely many challenges that we have here that you don't have in California. I mean, you have UPS, right? We also do, but not really. Like I can't just go on Amazon and order something and it comes. It just doesn't work that way. We have we established different ways of getting different things, but definitely I won't lie. It's not that easy here. It's not for no reason that appreciation comes. But personally, I'm very much willing to pay the price because my main goal is to reach out or to reach into Jews' heart. And when they're open and accepted, then I'll pay the price of the bigger price for the bigger result.
Wow, amazing. Where's your wife from?
My wife is from West Rogers Park in Chicago. I know half of you are from there. We met in Chicago. I was studying in New York at the time, and the name was suggested, and I flew to Chicago to meet her. It was a good idea.
And your English is amazing. If only Halavai, my Hebrew was as good as your English. It would be.
Well, I downloaded an app.
Do you speak mainly? Do you communicate? Is your services in Hebrew or in English or in
Our
a?
services are in English because most Israelis um, understand English or speak English, and also the community is more non-Israelis than Israelis. And add to this that Israelis are loud enough, even if they're guests. And I want to make sure that everyone feels at home. So this way, yeah. So services are in English, my speeches are in English, my weekly email. Now I have both, but community email is in English. I have a separate one now for traveler, like for people passing by, and that is in Hebrew.
Wow. Are there local Jewish people that grew up Jewish in Cambodia? Is that possible?
Grew up Jewish in Cambodia, no, but there are a few interesting situations. I won't list them all because there are a bunch, but some of them have to do with your region. I'm sure some of you have read about the princess, sorry, that had a bat mitzvah here.
Actually,
Uh,
Tessa is. She was telling me about it a couple days ago. She's on the call, and actually, my sister-in-law wrote that article. Her name is Sasha Friedman. She's the editor of Chabad.org.
okay, she
So,
wrote one of the articles because a bunch of articles were
there's
already
a bunch.
formed about this.
She
Yeah,
wrote the best article. How about that?
that's right. The
But if
most
you could
the
share,
most recent one.
yeah, for sure, could you share a little bit of her story and some other?
Yes, her her parents, her both her parents are part of the royal family, which means that they are able to give over the title to their children. So she was born and raised as a princess. Her parents served as ambassadors in the United States. Sometimes I think partially for UN, but mainly for ambassadors in Washington D.C. Ambassadors of Cambodia in America for the U.S. And she was raised completely American. She speaks fluent Khmer, and she mentioned to me once when we discussed this, the hierarchy in Cambodia is a very strong part of culture. Like traffic rules have to do with the with the value of your car. Like, in America, it's if you come from the right, come from the left, or you have a stop sign, you have a yield sign. This is here. It's different. If an expensive car comes, then he's first. If a car versus a motorbike, then the car is first. It's all about hierarchy and power. And even in eating, there's like eating for an animal, there's an eating for a person, and there's eating for important people, and then eating for royal family. Different expression of eating. So it made her family raise her in a sense of, you are not like everyone. Like she said, if she left something on her plate, her mother would tell her, hey, 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 we're part of the royal family. We cannot behave like people. Like you tell your child sometimes when you're upset, don't behave like an animal. So they are told, don't behave like people. We're special. And I use this a lot in my classes, because this comes a lot, particularly in this time of the year when Moshe prepares the Jewish nation to his passing and to their coming into the land. He keeps telling that to them. You are special people. You're children of God. You have a greater responsibility than others. This is not meant for you to feel better than others, but it makes you expect of yourself better than others. You can't do what other people do. So that's how she was raised, though completely not understanding what it is about, because she did grow up in America. She was American. She did not visit Cambodia until I until I was here. We'll get there in a few minutes. Later on in life, she dated a Jew, a Persian Jew, born and raised in Iran, very religious. Moved to U.S. at about 10 years old, and then slowly the family went a little off. First they started, then they gave up kosher, gave up Shabbos. They were keeping a few things, but not as great as they did in Iran. And so she met this boy and dated him. And at some point, it came time it was Rosh Hashanah. So he pointed to her that he will be away for a few days. He won't have access to the phone, and he needs time for himself. It's high holidays, and he's going to spend time in shul. And she jumped on the boat and said to him, actually, shul sounds to me great. I would love to join. And he said that, you know, not really a good idea. It's a very boring place. He said, no, 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 I want this. I like spirituality. You have to understand it's a different language, and it's in Hebrew, and it's too long. And she wasn't getting up. And he said, look, there's a machitza. You're going to be sitting in a different place. We won't be able to sit next to each other. Nothing worked. They ended up in shul together. He was sitting there in shul in the men's section. He was nervous about her. This was in Rabbi Halig, Chabad of Vegas. And Rabbi Harlig was giving his sermons, and she fell in love with the services. He was sitting downstairs in the men's section, nervous about how she feels. She was sitting upstairs, enjoying herself tremendously. And after 4 hours, when they reunited, um, she said to him that it was very exciting, and she's looking very much forward to coming tomorrow again. Okay. So the second day of Rosh Hashanah, they came again. He went to the men's section. She went to the ladies section. This time it was a little more relaxed. But when the service was over and they got together again, he said, we're going to be here again in a few days. And he says, yes, Yom Kippur is coming. He's like, no, no, no. The rabbi said there's another Shabbos between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. He's like, hey, 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 look, I'm the Jewish one in our relationship. Joel is mine. Joel is for us, for Rosh Hashanah, and for Yom Kippur. I'm not going to come here Shabbos. He said, you don't have to. I know the way. I can come here myself. And of course, he felt inappropriate. He felt it doesn't make sense. She's coming to shul. He's not going to be there. So he came with her, and then he came for Shabbat Shuvah, and he came for Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, and Simchat Torah. And from there, she gradually took more and more steps. She has gone through a conservative conversion at first, and only later on felt that this was not enough, and has undergone Orthodox conversion.
Wow. And where does she live now?
They're still in Vegas. They're still with Rabbi Harlig. They came here upon the passing of the previous King Sihanouk, Nordom Sihanouk. Now, Nordom Sihanouk is really her. She is a grandchild of King Manivong. King Manivong, interestingly, had plenty, a bunch of wives throughout his life. He had 54 children. She is a child of one of his youngest kids. um, of his from his latest wife. He had two children, her mom and her younger brother. Her younger brother just passed away about 6 months ago. I'm very close with the family. I know them, so I visited. I was at the funeral. He passed away 6 months ago, and that leaves her mother to be now the only live daughter of a king that passed away 60 years ago, of King Manivong. King Nordum, King Sihanouk passed away about 6 years ago. He's her first cousin, her mother's first cousin. And now we have his son in power, which is her second cousin. She went through, as I mentioned, the conversion about 6 years ago, around the passing time of her first cousin Mansur, of King Sihanouk. Her mother was unable to come here for the funeral because she's older, and she sent her as a representative, and that was her first trip to this country. So upon her arrival, she contacted me in advance. She can't move around without us. She needs kosher food. She even keeps halal Israel and everything. So upon arrival, she says only when the doors of the airplane opened up and everyone was asked to remain sitting, and the pilot came to her to ask her to come out first with their family, and a royal orchestra was waiting with the red carpet and stuff outside the airplane, and they were taken straight to the royal palace. She said to me days later, only then I realized what it is when my mother kept telling us, kept telling me, sorry, you can't do this, but you're part of a royal family. She always knew that, but it was always only in the back of her mind because Cambodia was a far place she haven't visited. She came here for the funeral just days after her conversion, and conversion followed also by a remarriage, although she already had children. Her children came here with big kippas and long peot, and real beautiful, cute Jewish little kids who found very close, many mutual things with my children. Um, but we made a Sheva Brachot for them because that Shabbat, this was my first Sheva Brachot. Then we had later on we had a wedding at Chabad rooftop, but by then it was like exciting to have the first Sheva Brachot here. And she said her story here on this Friday night. And she mentioned, I can't do this as good as she did because even when she did this the second time, everyone was shivering. But she mentioned that she has gone through so much in her path getting close to Hashem. She had studied depth and many hours. She's been practicing so much. She's considered herself Jewish since the previous conversion, and yet coming out of the mikveh water in the Orthodox conversion felt for her like she's born again. Felt for her like Hashem is sending a new neshama. That nothing of her efforts until that point has done what that action of going deep in herself, immersing herself in mikveh, has done for her. And she said this not only then. I asked her to repeat the story later when she was here at a latest trip, and she managed again to pass on this experience to us, which is incredible.
Amazing.
I don't find myself shivering regularly, or often, but it's a really powerful moment that she's able to describe and pass on.
I'm just
So
going to share. Oh, go ahead.
this was years ago. Months ago, she came here to do a celebration of her daughter's bar mitzvah, and this was part of the official schedule of the royal palace. So now a bat mitzvah is part of the um, history book of book of events of royal kingdom of Cambodia.
And actually, I'd love to talk a little more about the royal palace. I'm just sharing the screen. I think, Rabbi Butman, this is a seder that you were. It was. We obviously you don't have a
This is a
picture.
seder. This is a seder at a hotel nearby here. This is probably a $200 people salary seder. This is from a bunch of looking at the way it looks, probably from a few years ago,
Yeah,
a few years back.
yeah. And so now it grew since then. Your annual seder.
Our annual seder had not grown so much. It's around 200 still, but as I mentioned, we've started running Sidorim in other towns as we found out that some people will not make it here. And we started with one more seder. We moved on to two more seders. Last year we had three more seders with participation of a bit over 600 people.
Amazing. Wow. It's just incredible. I'm just going to share a few more pictures. You're actually talking about
Sure.
the royal palace. I have a picture. I think it's the king. You sent me some pictures. Have you? Did you meet the king of Cambodia? Did
I
they
met
invite
the
you?
king twice. I met the king twice. Once at an outside event, well, hosted by an Israeli investor. That was my first time with him, and I had a chance of chatting with him for a bit. And he told me that he's heard that we're here, and he's very excited about this because he understands that Jews are donating to the growth of the country, and he understands that thanks to our existence, Chabad existence, our presence, more Jews are able to come here and run their business here, which
Do
was
I have
great.
the? Is this? Did I get the right man? Is this the king?
This is not that event. This is the king. This event is in the royal palace, and this is actually um, at behind my wife and myself is the coffin of King Manivong. Sorry, King Sihanouk. This was back in 2015. They have like, yeah, interesting. They have a 7-day morning and a 30-day morning and then a 100-day morning. And only after a 100-day, they do the funeral. Not really not a burial, but a big funeral celebration. And then they do something with the ashes. I'm not so sure exactly. So this is at the royal palace, sharing condolences on behalf of the Jewish community.
Wow, wow. And remind me, how is the king related to that king that died? Was it
The king, the live king in this photo is the son of the dead king in the
the dead
photo.
one? Gotcha. Wow. You spoke about some of the challenges, and I have another picture maybe of you and the king, but I think that one would suffice. Can you tell me some of the other challenges? Is mikvah a challenge? Do you have a mikvah? Did you build a mikvah more recently?
Mikveh was a great challenge. Upon coming here, there was nothing, of course, here. The closest mikveh was in Bangkok.
How far
Flying to
did travel?
Bangkok. Bangkok is a flight. It's about an hour flight, but the flight schedule did not allow a flight back at the same night. So whenever my wife needed a mikveh, it meant that she went to Bangkok, she stayed over there for a night, and then came back to us the next morning, which was almost a 24-hour door to door.
Wow.
It was tough. Later, after a few years, they already had flights back the same night, which still meant that she left the house at 12 o'clock in the morning, midday, and came back at 11 p.m. And went through a crazy day, but it was more rational. We actually looked for mikvah from day one. I'm not going to say the story because it's really long, of how we first thought to put the mikvah in our backyard and then make the mikvah properly, and then rent a Chabad house, and then went for one land, from one land to the second land. Eventually, the land that the mikveh is at is the land that we have now for the entire building. What I can tell, however, is that we once had a lady here from Singapore. Singapore is also an hour and a half flight. She came for Shabbos. She came for tourists. I think she was touring. Maybe she came for work. She was here with her family for Shabbos, and I got a call from Chabad Singapore in advance saying this lady is not religious, but she comes from, her father is a rabbi and she's Israeli, and I should treat her with respect, and then try to appease her. And we went. She came here. She was here for Shabbos. We tried whatever we can. We made her feel good. We told her, she was asking questions about what we are, what we do, and challenges and so on. And she went back, and we did not hear anything. We didn't know what we have affected. But a few weeks or a few months later, it was international conference time, and I met with a rabbi from Singapore, and he says to me, you don't know what you did." Upon arrival back in Singapore, this lady called my wife, and she says to me, "Do you know what Mrs. Whitman is going through back in Cambodia? She has to fly to mikvah. She doesn't have a flight back the same night. You know this, you know that. I have a mikvah around the corner for me, and I say no to mikvah. I'm starting mikvah." And she said, he told me, since she's on mikvah every month, and this was this was very moving for them. They said they tried this so hard, particularly for the rabbi. It wasn't this thing. It was important because he want holy grandchildren, and whatever they tried didn't work. But when she came here, it worked. Standing with my friend there in Crown Heights at the ballroom in Olitera there in Yeshiva, where the conference takes place, I impulsively pull out my phone and called my wife, not realizing that if it's 1 p.m. here in New York, it's 1 a.m. in in Cambodia. I called her up, excited about this news. I wanted to share it with her. And I woke her up, of course. And I shared with her the story. I said, look what we did. So she said to me, like she's half sleeping, but she said this. She said, look, maybe that's why I have to suffer so much. But now that this was accomplished, perhaps it's time for us to have our own mikvah. 2 hours later, I was sitting with a supporter of ours, and I shared with him this story. And he pulled out his checkbook and he wrote a check for $25,000. He said, here, this is my share in your mikvah.
Wow.
Nothing that I got from him before.
Wow. So now you have a mikvah
By
in
now,
Cambodia.
by now we don't only have a mikvah. The mikvah land has grown over the years. As I mentioned, we've had different steps. We ended up buying a land that was enough not only for mikvah but for everything. We now have a 6-story building. It has of course, a mikvah on ground floor with a separate entrance, an industrial kitchen, a restaurant. Really, it's not a business restaurant, but a place where people can come and order food. We have a shul and a social hall and our residence, and a men's mikveh also in the upper floors, and kindergarten and preschool for the children, guest units, storage offices, and a beautiful rooftop, all in one building.
It's incredible.
Sukkah, of course, and the only thing we have to walk out for is the Jewish cemetery, which is not in the building. So I can definitely find myself sometimes a week without stepping out of the building.
Wow. So Kanai Nahar, you have a 6-story building in Cambodia, a pillar of Jewish life, a presence.
Yes, and we are about 3 minutes walk from the riverside and 3 minutes walk from the Royal Palace,
Wow.
and 5 minutes walk from Independence Monument, which is considered the most center of town. Any person visiting the Royal Palace, and there's a bunch, again, not now, but regularly, there's about, I say, 40, 50 buses a day dropping off people. And as they go out of the Royal Palace, waiting for the group to come out so they can hop on the bus again, they can see our building with a large, we invested in a very large, beautiful logo. So the menorah is seen. We've got a lot of people coming in through that. So I know that a lot of people I wouldn't even know. People that are part of big groups. Sometimes I get an email. Say, I was part of a group. I saw the logo. It's very nice you're here. I'm sorry I couldn't visit. We get that too. And I know for one email that I get, there's probably 30 others that don't bother sending me.
Wow. Amazing. And Kanai Nahara, and you're getting me, Bentzian, to get moving, because if you, thank God, in Cambodia are able to pull something off like that, I have to get working here in Northern California to get a mikvah and to get a beautiful building with Hashem's help. I'm going to pull up, if it's okay with you, I'm going to pull up just a picture of what Cambodia, a little map of Cambodia. I hope I got the right country here. Does this look familiar to you, Bentzian?
You're very, very familiar. This is as familiar to me as La Brea is to you.
As what is? La Brea?
Yeah.
So I'm going to, I peeked a little bit on your website, and it seems like you have 8 different menorah lightings on Hanukkah in 8 different cities. Did I get that right?
You get that right, but not updated.
No, that's fine. But you've done that before.
Yeah, actually, Hanukkah. Look, we as the only presence. I'm going to take care of questions in a second. I see questions are coming up. We're going to look at soon in the chat. We invest a lot of our times in reaching out to other cities because there's literally nothing in other cities. So we run Shabbos in other cities. I've had last year, we had here another family who every second Shabbos did in another place. I mentioned Pesach. Last year for Purim, we took a helicopter to make sure to do Megillah reading in all these places. So I was here in the morning of Purim for the Minyan and the Megillah reading of the morning. I then took a helicopter from here going to 3 more locations around the nation, around the country. One large city, one resort area with a lot of backpackers, and one in the island. And then I came back here 5 p.m. for the children program, followed by the large Purim party.
Let me get that. Let me make sure I just understand. You hired you rented a helicopter to be able to read the Megillah in different places.
Yes. Yes. Hanukkah in that sense is the easiest because Hanukkah doesn't require a rabbi for anything. There's not many laws. All you have to do is light the menorah. Everyone knows the brachos. So what we do is we prepare packages, ready package, a party on the go, with of course branded tablecloth and paper plates and paper cups, which we get from the U.S., and dreidels and latkes and donuts, and the menorahs, of course, and candles. and I even send a USB stick with music, everything you need for the party. All I need is people to have to be there to be able to collect the package, and we send. We have a good system of delivery here. Not
It's
similar to
amazing.
US. It's not tracking by online. It's more like a like the shtetl, like the Jewish mail counter. There's a taxi station. They go, so they take this too. This past Hanukkah, we reached I think 23 or 24 parties in maybe 11 locations. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. So you're based in Phnom Penh over here. Did I pronounce
In
that correctly?
Phnom Penh, right in the
Phnom
center.
Penh.
Right? I mean, it's not really center, but yeah, around your red dot. That's correct. That's Phnom Penh.
So
That's
in
our
all
city.
these
That's the
different
capital city.
places, from Krong Batabang,
But
Bukit,
Krong means city. Krong is a city.
oh, Krong
Battambang and
is
Siem Reap is uh, Battambang and Siem Reap. Battambang is actually the second largest city. Siem Reap is very famous as it has temples there. It's one of seven world wonders.
oh, really?
Um,
Oh,
yeah, and then you have so these are two destinations. Then all the way in the south, you go in a straight line. There is a beach city named Sihanoukville, and then the islands Korong and Korong Saint Loam. There's more beach resorts a little to the east. But yeah,
and there's Jews in
these
all
are
these cities.
yes, there are Jews everywhere. There, I've gone. It was a while ago. I've gone to real nowhere, and there was a Jew there. And I said, if that place is a Jew, living there regularly, if that place is a Jew, then I said, drive on the highway, and here it's like you can drive on the highway, and out of the blue, all of a sudden, a house, and then you drive another 2 kilometers, just a house like this. I said, if that place has a thing, then every house like this requires of me to stop and find out maybe there are Jewish people over there.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. I want to ask you now that I'm just going around the different cities and you've been there, you drive around and Hanukkah and arranging Purim. Have you seen anti-Semitism? Is that something that exists in Cambodia as much as in the United States, less, more? Or if you could talk a little bit
Zero.
about anti-Semitism and
Zero, absolutely zero. There's no anti-Semitism in the Far East at all. In Thailand, they have some time from travelers. Unfortunately, terrorist group from our cousins. But within the local community, none. And here in Cambodia, there was one incident about 6 or 7 years ago with a bunch of bored souls who came here from Europe and were neo Nazis. It took about a week for them to do trouble, not with Jews. Like they have their own trouble. They're like fanatic neo Nazis, and the country kicked them out. So yeah, a Jew got spit on that within that week, and we knew exactly where they're sitting, where they're spending their time. But it didn't take long for them to be kicked out.
wow, wow. So how do you get your kosher?
Um, how do we get kosher? My first answer to this is always that we tried very hard to keep kosher at the beginning, but we realized it is impossible, so we gave it up. Um, Look, when you live in the US, you feel that you are very strongly connected to the shelf foods. When you come to these places, you realize you can manage very well with the basic without like ready bought food, without crackers and wafers, stuff like this. That's number one. And with that being said, fruits and vegetables and fish and flour and sugar and salt and rice, which is a main food item here in this country, is rice. You say you say you're going to eat a meal. You're saying the word to say it is I'm going to eat rice, and everyone eats rice over here. Rice and rice and rice. Rice for lunch, rice for supper, rice for breakfast. It's always rice. Um, so a lot of the basic items are here regularly, naturally, and you can manage with that. We get chicken and beef from Thailand. We get a lot of shelf food on the shelves here because much of the local products are actually imported, like Hans ketchup and French mustard and all kind of sauces. Sorry, uh, pasta. There's a lot of items in the supermarket that carry kosher symbol because a lot of the food is imported. And on top of this, once a year we make a shipment from Israel, a container shipment, like a by boat. Includes mainly, I mean, most importantly, matzahs and wine. But while we're at it, anything that has long shelf life.
Wow.
So we have, I don't know if you have that photo, but we have a beautiful, large variety of kosher shop downstairs in the restaurant, in which local Jews come and buy whatever they want.
Amazing. And like,
What we have less, is milchiks. Anything dairy is harder to get because the shipment here is harder. Usually throughout the year, if I go to US, my wife goes to US, someone else comes from the US, anyone like this brings a case or two of yogurt. But as you know, there's nobody coming, so we have not had yogurt for a long while.
wow. Wow. Okay. Um,
Can we take care of questions? I'm actually sitting with my phone and not with my laptop because I have error with my laptop camera.
No problem.
But I think we should go
let me
through
just,
questions.
I just want to do a few more pictures and then we'll take questions, just to give people a little more of an understanding. I see.
Okay, because questions have been posted already on the chat. Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll get them. I see some beautiful children here. Some look like locals, some not. I see a teacher in the back. I think that's a teacher. They look very happy, and I didn't get it in this picture, but there's you in the front with a Torah. It's in the next picture that it looks like we're sharing to the local classroom. I'm not sure if you could enlighten us a little bit what's going on here.
This photo is actually taken in the old Chabad, in the rented villa we had. And these are students of ISPP. ISPP is the most expensive and most known school in Phnom Penh, International School of Phnom Penh. Ministers' children, ambassadors' children, and wealthy locals, these are the people that would send their children there because as much as there's great poverty in this country, there's wealth here, of course, held by a very small percentage of people that is not to be found anywhere else. I think take Rolls-Royce as an example. The city has probably, this is a 2 million people city. I would say probably 700 to 1,000 Rolls-Royce around. There's not a single time that I've gone the road with.
Wait, say that again, Benzian. You said
700 to 1,000 Rolls-Royce unit in the city. This is these people pay, I don't know, 15, 20, 25,000 dollars per child for a school year. When you have to understand, this is in a country where a life of a person is worth $5,000. Like if you caused someone death, that's what you pay to the family. And some families would say, why don't you take this guy and give us $5,000? Like people make 100, the salary. When we came here, salary was $68 a month. Now it's more like $170. But
you said $68 a month.
$60 a month. That's what we came here in 2009.
Wow.
Now it's $170.
Wow.
So these children are the lucky children of ambassadors. That's why you see foreigners here. Children of wealthy business people, wealthy locals, ministers, and so on.
Oh wow! Okay, thank you.
They came because 5th grade of ISPP, one of their projects is religion. So every year we get this group to come. They go to a mosque, they go to a church, and they learn about different religions. Of course, we use the chance to explain to children about 7 Noahide laws and the responsibilities that each and every human being has to the Creator.
Amazing. All right, we'll go through a few more pictures, and then of course we'll take questions. I also want to pull up. So this is a children's. Is this Hebrew school, or it looks like something Hanukkah related? Hanukkah party.
This is Hebrew school. This may be the pre-Hanukkah event, but these are. Let me look closer. These are Hebrew school children.
Nice.
Yeah.
I see some of your own children in there as well.
Yeah, they're also Jewish.
So this is also in the old Chabad. I'll try to pull up.
This is also old Chabad. It may even be. I mean, it's not the same year, but it may be the same event. I mean, it is the same event.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's the same year. I don't know.
So this is your Seder. So here you're on a helicopter. Is this on Purim?
No, this helicopter was actually. I mean, I know we're both smiling, but this was an evacuation mission. A traveler that got trapped in the jungle, and we went to rescue him.
Oh, so
We had
so
a lot, as I mentioned before, a lot of my time is being spent on humanitarian causes because there's nothing else around. If somebody is lost, if someone lost a passport, if there's an accident, a bus that turned over, God forbid, a body that has to be shipped back to another country. Here, let me show you one of my jobs here. Do it live. Um, it's all taken care of by it's all taken care of by me because there's no one else here to do these. So a lot of my time, an Australian boy who was addicted to drugs, and guy was running in the streets. Who's gonna find him? Embassy refused to do anything about it. Now, what I just did now is checking eggs for the staff downstairs. Somebody came to order breakfast, and the eggs have to be checked anywhere, but particularly here, they're very much flawed. The only reason why all 4 eggs were okay is because my staff has learned over the time to sift through. They check it first and only give me for confirmation.
wow.
But
So
for these
every
4 eggs, they may have opened, I don't know, 8, 10 eggs in order to get 4 good ones.
wow. So in your restaurant, when people come and order, you're the mashkiach also.
Right.
So by day you help and evacuate and fly in helicopters, and in the evening you help in the kitchen. And
We don't have helicopters every day, which I must say, it is thanks to the evacuation helicopter that it was possible for me to run on a helicopter for Purim. Because I knew the company and I explained to them the situation, so they didn't charge me full. They realized that they better keep a relationship with me, otherwise I can go to another company next time.
mhm.
And so it became possible to do the Purim. I have had escorting people on flights in cases, again, overstay visa, a lot of crazy stories. And there's no one else in this country that can do these things. And there's a lot of people coming through the country, and it produces a lot of crazy stories.
Wow. Okay, we'll take some of the
I've been
questions. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I've been to Israel in February for 24 hours. I had to take someone home, which is another crazy story. A drug addict with this crazy family. We're not going to get into this. California is also part of that. Um, but
So
yeah, I've been there for 24 hours. I landed, I deposited the child in parents' hands. I came home, I kissed my parents, I met a few people, and went back to the plane.
wow. So this picture, if I'm not mistaken, is this is the vice chairman of Chabad. His name is Rabbi Kotlarski. Some of you may have listened to him at conferences. So over here, him and there's many other pictures. This is the inauguration of your big 6-story building. I could see a kind of in the picture on the back.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a little. I should have had the model here. Let me bring it. I have a model of the building.
I may have it somewhere, but so they
Okay.
came in for the inauguration.
It's funny. Not only they came for the inauguration, but out of back then 41 Chabad rabbis, I think 22 of them, more than half of Chabad rabbis in Asia, were part of the inauguration back in 2015. And the first page of the main paper here was Cambodia Daily. The first page did not say that Chabad has launched a 6-story building. The first page said that 20 some or 30 rabbis have arrived to the country for the first time in history, and the photo was of the police blocking the road as they were coming from the hotel to the mezuzah placing.
Wow. So that was the big news.
A photo of 30 rabbis crossing the road in Phnom Penh was more great. I agreed with that. I mean, for me, it was more important. Hey, I'm working 2 years to build the building. You're telling me that 30 people came here. It's not that big, but for people, it is. The building is here to stay. This is an event, at a one-time event.
Wow. Okay, we'll go through some of the questions. Is your life very separate from the Cambodian people, or would you say that it overlaps?
My what?
Is your life, is it separated from the Cambodian people, or do you see it overlap?
By nature, it is. By nature, it is because they're too far to be relating to. So if you talk about people that I'm in regular touch with, like our staff, we have 7 people downstairs in the kitchen. I have 2 people in the house. These are people that I'm closer with. Um, keep track of their birthdays. I know their children's names and so on. But it doesn't help. Like even if I came to their house because they had a child's birthday, the 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 things in common, the ability to share thoughts, it's just not there. So I do keep in touch. Service providers, different people that I'm in touch with, or I try, but it's because I have to. It's not. I don't have any Cambodian person that I can sit with and share my. And I shouldn't say no. I have some, but these are high rankings. I won't like. I can't take the leisure of calling these people up, just wasting time. In other words, if they're in my eye level, they're not interested. Put it
Oh,
this
mhm. Wow. Okay, you answered about kosher. One of the comments is, we are scattered among the nations. And really your job, I saw actually in your banner in the background of your inauguration celebration, the background had a verse in Hebrew, "V'atem teluktu la'achad echad b'nei Yisrael," which means a prophecy from the prophets that you shall be collected one by one. And it seems like in Cambodia, it's a real thing, like going.
Right. We have that in English too. It's not a literal translation, but in English it goes Cambodia because no Jew will be left behind.
Yeah, yeah.
I can share with you later. You can share with your community a fascinating speech that my wife shared in the conference of ladies back in 2009 or 10, either end of no, probably early 2010. 10 weeks after we arrived, she was honored to deliver greetings, and that's where basically that sentence became our motto from
Well,
that speech.
if you
That
could email it to me, I'll email it out to everyone joining tonight. I'll also add the article of the princess who became Jewish. I'll include that as well. Actually, been seeing in one of our talks, you said there is someone in the palace that converted and is observant. Did I understand that from our conversations?
um, no, in the palace there is no. There's nobody living now in Cambodia that is observant. There's another royal family member who is religious. She lives now in Israel,
Mm-hmm.
and she is a daughter of a Jewish mother and a Khmer father. Her father is part of the royal family, and as such, he was sent to be an ambassador in Switzerland, where he met his wife and had 2 kids,
Okay.
sons. The
A
boy,
great
sorry,
question.
2 kids.
A good question from Elizabeth is, you have 7 children? Is that what we understood?
Yes, as
So
far as
out
I
of the
know.
7 children, how many were born, Kanai, how many were born in Cambodia? What is the medical care like in Cambodia in general?
Um, 2 children were born prior to our arrival, and they were born in Staten Island Hospital in New
That's
York.
where my daughter was born. Nice.
That's right, by Dr. Klinger, right?
Yeah, Hadassah. Yeah,
Yeah,
my
of
daughter.
course, we all go to the same doctor. So these are the first two before our arrival. Actually, first before we thought of the place. The second one was born in between Pesach 2009, our decision to come, and the actual one-way ticket. 2 more children were born while we were already living here, but my wife thought it would be a crazy idea to give birth here, and so we traveled to Israel to give birth. 2 children were Israeli, and then child number 5 and on are born here in Cambodia. Um, what is medical treatment like? Again, because there is a percentage, small, but there is a percentage of people that are very wealthy and very expecting a very high um, life standards. There's already 2 by now. Great hospitals with very skilled people that are coming, that are brought from abroad, that are expensive and are efficient and successful.
Wow. Okay, thank you. Someone's trying to get a sense for society in Cambodia. So does Cambodian government recognize you as the chief rabbi of Cambodia? Or
Not as a chief rabbi. It's not the issue. Chief rabbi, you say when you have 35,000 rabbis and they need one who is chief. I'm a rabbi in Cambodia. It's the only one. But when upon coming here, I wanted very much to be recognized by the government, and so when I found out there was a ministry of cult and religion, and that's how it's called here. It's called before, it's called first and then religion. I requested by my Jewish lawyer to submit an application. So he said to me that I don't need to submit an application because Cambodian government is very easy on giving visas to people even without explaining why they need a visa. I said to him, it's not for visa purposes, it's for honesty purposes. So he said, if it's for honesty purposes, well, you have a restaurant, so open a business, and I'll help you open a business. I said, no, I want the government to recognize me for what I really am here for. And he said, you won't be able to help me. This is too sophisticated. This country is not what I think, and it's not done by law. And there's a lot of, anyways, I ended up going there myself. I came into the Ministry of Religion of Cult and Religion, and they said to me that they cannot accept any new um, religions, any other religions. I pointed to them that there are mosques and churches all around the country, and I assume, which is not necessarily true, funny enough, but I was telling them I assume that they're registered. And the man looked at me and he said, "Well, Christians or Muslims are out there for over 1,000 years. You guys are new." So
Wow.
that's how we started. But yeah, by now we're recognized. We have a certificate from the Ministry of Culture and Religion. I'm actually working now on um, my citizenship because that will allow me to buy land. Right now, both lands, Chabad and the cemetery, are registered in a secured way, but not glatt, not smooth. With a company and a registration and the deposit and the condition to secure it, even though foreigners are not allowed to buy land. But hopefully, I'm going to get a citizenship soon, which I deserve legally, and and then I can pass it on to my.
There's a debate of Hinduism or Buddhism. Which one is the dominant faith or religion?
The dominant religion is Buddhism. 90 or 95% of the country are Buddhist, but it was a few years ago that I discovered that the official religion of the royal palace is actually Hinduism. But you don't see Hinduism so much around. I don't know how that happened. Like, how did Buddhism take over if the royal government, the royal family, the royal government, which is like here for who knows how long, um, is Hindu.
Amazing. Okay.
I didn't even do this myself. Like for years, I thought this country is Buddhist country, finished. And then someone drew my attention that the monks at the official royal events aren't Buddhist, Hindu.
Someone says, Leslie says, this is very fascinating and educational. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Yeah,
From Maddie.
common said, thank you. I managed to see. But once it's a question and it pops and goes off, not all questions I self-clear.
Oh, no, it's
Thank you
fine.
for the compliment. I'm happy I was able to give pleasure.
Do you ever think I can't believe my life because of some of the crazy stuff that happens? It sounds like a movie. So do you almost feel like I can't believe this is my life? This is where I'm raising my family?
I still can't believe that. And there are still some things that we haven't made peace with. Like not having yogurts I can live without, but some things are hard. My brother's getting married. I mean, this is not really to blame Cambodia for, rather the virus. My brother's getting married in 2 weeks in Israel,
Mazel tov.
and I right now it doesn't seem like it. I still fantasize about this. I was even crazy enough to inquire about the private jet, but it doesn't seem like rational.
Wow. Hopefully we'll be with Mashiach already and it won't
Yeah,
even be a doubt.
yeah.
This is a great question from Howard. I know we don't proselytize, but do many Cambodians wish to convert to Judaism?
Oh yeah.
We met with
Oh yeah.
the Jewish community in Nigeria. They were saying there's entire tribes that not only respect Judaism, but they want to be Jews. So I'm curious to see what is it like in Cambodia.
No, we don't have that. We don't have it as tribes. We do have it as people. And what I tell these people at first is that you don't have to be a Jew in order to be a creature of God. God is the creator of all of us, and as such, each and every one of those people who wants to become Jewish has a greater mission than becoming Jewish, and that is teaching around the existence of God. We live in the West where monotheism is obvious. I mean, not everyone agrees to it, but understandably so, aware of the theology. Here in the East, there's absolutely no awareness of monotheism. They have no clue about God, not at all. So when someone comes to me and says, I want to become Jewish, I say, hey, your father is oblivious to God, your mother is oblivious to God, your neighbor is oblivious to God, your daughter is oblivious to God, and now you're going to become Jewish and leave them all behind. Here is the 7 Noahide laws. Keep them, they're very important, and spread them around, which is my answer to all. But yeah, generally speaking, a lot of them want to convert. Like the famous joke about the lady coming to the rabbi, and she says, Rabbi, I think I'm Jewish. So the rabbi says, why do you think you're Jewish? She says, I don't know how to explain this. Every single time I pass by your synagogue, I feel a great push to come in. But the rabbi says to her, he looks at her and he says, you know what? I think you're not Jewish. And she says, why do you say that? He said, look, what is it that you have with the push? I don't know. but I have 1,000 members in this congregation. None of them feels a push to come in to show when they pass by. But what is it that you have? I don't know, but it's not. It doesn't mean you're relax.
Nice.
So yeah, we don't have the Jews coming here saying we need services as much as we have non-Jews coming and saying we want to convert. But we do
Wow.
have that. We do have those. Usually like more curiosity, and also they are very much liking to adapt West. So like for example, 2009 or 10, there was nothing much. But by now you walk around holiday seasons, everyone has trees and stickers and singing, and it's nothing to do. They're not aware of the religion behind it or the stories. They just know it's a cultural thing. It's an American thing to do. So they do it as an American thing.
Wow.
So some of them would probably want to convert as part of like adapting American way of thinking, or Western way of thinking.
Mhm. Is COVID-19, is coronavirus, are people mindful to it? Is it rampant? Is it something that you have to be careful with, as it is in the United States now? Is it in the news?
COVID-19 makes people very careful with what they say about it. So before I speak and express my own opinion about it, I have to be very careful.
Not asking about your opinion,
Um,
just asking
no, I understand. So
people wearing
no,
masks?
but the problem is that the virus is a matter of opinion. Practically speaking, the official numbers, there has been 122 cases between the major outbreak until about 2 months ago.
In the entire Cambodia
There's,
or in your city?
yes, no, in the entire
Oh,
Cambodia.
wow.
Cases that were found within the country
Mhm.
from people that came out. I don't know if there's any. I do know actually. There is one case in which one person coming from abroad has carried it, passed it on to 27 more people. Um, that's all within the first 122 cases. Once that was in control, we had about 2 months straight without any new cases. And then Cambodia opened its doors for people from outside. They're very strictly monitoring people who are coming. Like upon arrival, everyone has to go to government quarantine, and only in case nobody is found positive, they have to show a test within 72 hours. And in case none of them found positive at test here in Cambodia, then they can be going home for a home quarantine. In case one was found positive, everyone goes. Basically, from then, there's about another 100 new cases. Like sometimes 5, sometimes 2 a day, sometimes not one, sometimes 0. But there is no new cases within the country in over 3 months.
Wow, Baruch Hashem. That's amazing. Okay. Any final message that you could have for my community, or anything inspiring that you can leave us with?
Yes, yes. Aside for the message that you'll hear from my wife and the video YouTube link that I highly recommend, which tells that no quantity of Jews is too far, is too little, and no corner in this world is too far. And we're here, Chabad is here for each and every Jew. I would point to you that it takes sometimes for Jews to come to these places, to far places, to discover themselves. Being in the warmth of La Brea or other places in California, being in the warmth of the Western world and connected with family and friends, sometimes these are shells to our own souls. And by coming here, I see how those shells go off, and people have not stepped foot into shul in 60 years, and I have such, have become regulars at our shul. And my call is, let's not wait for that moment to come. Let's realize that deep within us, we do have that soul. And let's create the Cambodian atmosphere around us, even when we're not really there.
Amazing. Very inspiring. Thank you, Ben Sion. On behalf of my community, I'd like to also add that on behalf of everyone here, I'll be in touch with you and see what's the best way. But we would like to I'd like to, on behalf of everyone, give a donation to your incredible work that really is inspiring and magical. So thank you for the miracles you're doing. You're on the forefront, you're on the front lines, and you're just incredibly inspiring. So thank you for what you're doing. I'm honored to be a colleague and a brother of yours, and we'll continue bringing Mashiach in our neck of the woods. And if you do it in your neck of the woods, God willing, it'll be very soon. We'll be together in the Holy Land.
Sure. Thank you very, very much for giving me the opportunity, and thank you all for your compliments. I will give you the link later. It is jewishcambodia.com/donate.
Awesome.
Quite
Thank you.
simple. And I'll send you also the link along with the link to the YouTube. And I'm sure the article of your sister-in-law, you can find yourself.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben-Zion. Have a good morning to you.
Pleasure.
And
Have all a good
glad
night.
you're
It's
in.
almost late
All
morning. Have a good night. All thanks again for being here. And may each one of us take positive things from this.
Amen. Thank you. Bye, Ben-Zion. Thank you so much.
Good night.